All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode. I'm joined today by Shamir, who is putting out a second album in 2020. I don't know how you have the energy to do that, but that is happening in a couple of days from now. If you want to, tell everybody who may not know you a little bit about yourself, and where you come from, and how'd you get into music? What's your deal?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Considering, I look back and I really have been doing music professionally for 7 years now, which is insane to me. Yeah, but also I'm only 25, so it feels. But yeah, I essentially got signed out of high school to not a major label, but a very major indie, because they signed this small little artist called Adele.
Small.
Yeah, a little. She's kind of underground, but yeah, XL Recordings signed me. I want to say a year after I graduated, a little less than a year after I graduated high school. So basically music is all I know. I was born and raised in Las Vegas. Now I currently live in Philadelphia. And I guess if you don't know me, I would say this upcoming record is the best place to start and then make your way down. Because I think this record is really kind of a pinnacle of everything that I've ever done. It merges every single thing I've ever done perfectly, I think. But also there's just such a great story, I think, if you make your way from this record down to the beginning with Ratchet, and kind of just because every record sounds completely different. This is my 7th record altogether. And actually one of them isn't even on streaming right now, hope, but maybe one day. But of the 6 ones that's on streaming sites, I think you'll just be down for a journey, because it's really hard to explain myself as an artist. It's just that I just can say every record has its own world, essentially.
It definitely does. I noticed that in your in Ratchet, it's definitely a lot more dancey, and even the most recent stuff that you're putting out is almost relating a little bit back to that, but even more pushed. And then Cataclysm that you just put out at the beginning of quarantine is very indie rock kind of vibe, which is totally different than those. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, Cataclysm is very fuzzy, very shoegazy, very indie rock. But also I released 2 records in 1 year twice. The other time that it was in 2017 when I released Hope, and then released Revelations. And I think anytime I do that in a year, even just without thinking, they're kind of naturally sister records, I think even though they both might be different in a lot of ways, I think they kind of also pair together. And I think, again, even though it wasn't really thought of that way, I think both records also kind of paired together in a really cool way as well. So
yeah, you've put out a record every year since 2017. That is insane, at least what I've seen on streaming. So, and then before that, 2015 and 14. So you've been working the whole time.
Yeah.
How did you have that energy? How to have all that come out and get it through the system every year?
I parted ways with XL Recordings, my first label, in 2016. So I kind of saw that as newfound freedom. I'm well, I can release how much I want, whenever I want to, so I thought, why not? I kind of just release music when I feel like it now.
These are all self-released?
Every post-Ratchet album is self-released, with the exception of Revelations, which was released through Father Daughter, who's an amazing label, but I had only signed on for one record with them. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you said that this upcoming album that's coming out soon is the great place to start. Why is that? Like, what does it say most about you and your music that you think would?
Well, as you mentioned yourself earlier, kind of, goes back to like the Ratchet era. I think it's the first time where I've merged kind of like my indie rock side and my pop side in a way that like works. And it just felt natural as well, like I think for the longest there was like I felt kind of like a divide between my audience, between like the people who like wanted more pop stuff and like the people who wanted more like rock stuff. And I just feel like this record gives everyone everything that they want, but also without me compromising myself as well. One big thing was like I wanted to still be able to play the record live as a three-piece rock band, which is my normal live band, without any backing tracks, because I absolutely hate backing tracks. But I also just like love playing with a three-piece. Like playing as a three-piece like offers a lot of room for like just like freestyling and kind of just going off the cuff, and the less people, the easier it is to do that. So it's just like so much more fun. I don't know, I just love playing as a three-piece. So I kept that in mind, I could play this whole record as a three-piece without any backing tracks, and but still like I think the production is still very simple and even kind of like lo-fi, but like can still be played on radio if it wanted to. I mean, it's been getting the most radio plays since Ratchet, so, well, the singles, not out yet, but
yeah, I was gonna say the singles are definitely very catchy, and you even put out that music video for On My Own, which you made yourself in quarantine, and that's just such like a reminder of the times, which is really cool to see. And how did you put that together? What was it like filming that?
A challenge.
I bet.
But also so fun. Like I like challenging myself creatively. And it was so crazy because like the fall before all of this happened, that's when I decided to get my camera and like started to get back into cinematography. And it was almost like the universe preparing me, because like had I not, I don't know what I would have done for visuals. So yeah, it was just like it's just crazy. So I did a lot of like research on just like filming before I even did the video. So I was just like, well, Shamir, we gotta put it to work now. And yeah, I'm glad. And I was already kind of like getting into film stuff before, because like, I started my own label, XML Pop Star, for like other new artists and developing artists. And I've directed 2 videos for 2 different artists on my label. So I was already like kind of like dipping back into just doing video and film, but this was the first thing that I did entirely myself, like editing, shooting, everything. I did. It was completely on my own. This is song.
Yeah.
Oh,
that like it's totally full circle.
Yeah. Again, everything. Just even just the way that like also the song kind of like ties to the times as well. Because I wrote it a year before, but again, it's just this seems like the universe set me up for what's to be now, which is like honestly great, because I mean we're all blindsided. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I wasn't blindsided, but like had I not already been kind of like miraculously prepared without me really knowing, I don't know what I would have done. It would have been 10 times more stressful.
So all of this music that's coming out on the new album, did you have this before quarantine, or is it like a mix of before and during, or when did that
happen? So I would say the songs date back as far as like fall of 2018, and then I just took a year I just took all of last year off just in general. Between big legs of touring, I like to take a year off just for my mental health, and just I think everyone should, because touring is grueling. I took I think the last quarter of 2016 after Ratchet, and most of 2017 until I didn't start touring again until December after Revelations came out in November of 2017. And then toured nonstop from December 2017 till August, late August, close to September 2018, and then decided to take the rest of 2018 and 2019 off. And I did one-offs in between 2019, like I did like some Pride stuff, I did a festival here and there, just like small one-offs, but like no full legs of touring. And and just took the whole year just to like live and write and be me. And so yeah, I wrote during that time basically what will be this record, and then started to get production and everything and ideas together the end of last year, and then recorded on my own in January of this year, and then we actually finished the rest of the record during quarantine. So we finished in April, and like 3 of the songs I finished by myself at home and recorded by myself at home, and then the rest we did like social distance in the studio, which is great because Headroom has a separate live room and vocal booth, so that worked out really well, and it's big anyway, so it's like really easy to social distance. But yeah, it's just definitely, even though it wasn't written during these times, it still feels like a COVID baby, you know?
Yeah.
Me taking a year to like write these songs and like really sit on them and everything, I wanted to make sure that they were like super strong. So these songs are already just rock solid by the time I started recording them, which is like what I wanted. So I think the only roadblock that I had to get around is I'm an absolute boomer when it comes to technology. Even when I write my songs, I write on 4-track. Like first of all, I just got my first computer last year, like that I'm using to talk to you on right now. I went my whole entire life without having my own personal PC. I did everything on my phone, and I had a tablet. And then I recorded all my demos on 4-track, which I still do, because it's faster and easier for me. So, it was a new experience for me to record on the DAW and record, you learn how to use my interface and getting the right interface. And I'm getting better. I'm slowly learning. But I don't know. I feel like an engineer now that I get like my first engineering credit. So
I feel like a lot of people have been learning like all this new technology during this time, and because you have to, and it's cool because you get to do all these things that you would normally get to do, and now you have that under your belt. Like, yeah, I engineered my own music, and I can say that, and I can do it in the future. So
yeah, especially with video editing. I realized that's something that I quite like. And like now I'm like taking on like other friends and like I'll edit this for you or like whatever, and I'm definitely at this point because I already had a bit of experience before when I got my computer last year, but like definitely a lot better with like Ableton and recording on the computer and everything.
But when did you like first get interested in just making music in general? Like, how did that start for you?
Mine, like first way back as I can remember, because my aunt is like a poet, but she was one to make songs, but she like didn't sing or play anything. So she kind of found this like a group of friends back in Vegas that she would create music with, and she found just like players and singers, and she actually had a bedroom recording setup back then, like way back then when I was like in like kindergarten. It was like some like the early, even like kindergarten and pre-kindergarten, because my mom is a twin. So when I mentioned my aunt, I mean my mom's twin, which is like essentially my second mom, and they were very close as well. So like my early growing up experiences was they lived together and I lived with them. So and my mom had me at 19, so they were really young. So they had a lot of like their friends come chill, record music, hang, like they had kickbacks because they were like in their early 20s. So I actually learned how to like communicate with adults before I even knew how to talk to kids my own age, which was problematic once I went to kindergarten. It was an adjustment period. But yeah, I would sneak into her bedroom and like watch them record songs, and I was just so intrigued by that. And my mom will tell you that I started writing my own like little ditties to myself as early as kindergarten, realistically. And then by 8, that's when I knew I wanted to sing, and I had joined choir for the first time. But that's when I realized that I had a unique voice, and that was going to be a problem for me. It still sometimes is, because the kids would make fun of me, and even my mom, when I had first sang to her for the first time when I was 8, she told me not to quit my day job. Yeah.
Well, you're 8, you're still
but I remember my 3rd grade choir teacher, like him actually know about singing and like, being a choir teacher, like I guess he always saw potential. So he was really the only person that like would, like root for me, and like encourage me. But after 3rd grade, I just took it upon myself to start, doing music just like on my own. And I didn't do choir at all after that, and just sang on my own time, wrote on my own time. And I guess my mom eventually saw that, and I guess she heard progress within a year. So at 9, that's when she bought me my first guitar, and the rest is history. I've been writing songs ever since.
Do you remember any of your early music?
Oh yeah.
When you were a kid? Like what were some of your like favorite ones that you used to like sing and do? Do you know?
Well, my favorite, well, I don't know if it's my favorite, but it was my mom's favorite, and she used to make me sing it all the time. I wrote it in middle school, which is like really dark because it's a song called The Devil's Bride, which is like literally about a woman who's like trying to murder her husband.
Oh my god. Wow.
Yeah. But it was like really tuneful, which I think really set the tone of just like my songwriting style in general. I think a lot of like, especially in Ratchet, I think Ratchet is a perfect example. Like there's like some relatively dark themes on that, but like it's very danceable and like cheery.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna say a lot of your music, it has that hidden like darkness to it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's like one of the early ones, because I remember my mom just like really loved it and would make me play it all the time. But the early stuff was just like really folky. Like even that song's like very folky country stuff, because like up until like freshman year of high school, like throughout all of middle school and everything, once I finally like got good at guitar and like was able to do chord progressions and like write songs and everything, I wanted to be a country singer. Like I wanted to be Taylor Swift. Like you're gonna tell me that I wasn't Taylor Swift. I was like, I'm gonna be Taylor Swift by the time I'm 16, like Taylor Swift. But then I got hit with the harsh reality that like, oh Shamir, you're Black and queer. Trying to break into country music is gonna be a little harder than you thought. Which made me angsty, and then I was just like, well, I'm just gonna start a punk band.
Do you think you'll ever try to do something like that in the future? Do you feel more confident?
I think I've always represent my countryside throughout my entire career.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, my first EP, I covered Lived and Died Alone by Lindy Ortega. That's a country song. The bonus track on Even Ratchet, KC, is a country song. And I would say there's a country song on just about every record of my Other Side. That's a country song.
Okay.
which is on this record. So yeah, I've always represented my love for country throughout my entire career, even though I might not be considered a country artist, but also like I'm not really considered any genre artist. So
Which I think is really cool. Like, I don't understand why everyone has to have a genre. I think it's more, it, that's what art is. You just get to express yourself however you want to and be whoever you want to be. And you do that very well. And it's,
I think realistically the fact that I wasn't able to be a country artist kind of like probably subconsciously made me become this like genreless artist that I am now, because it's like, well, if I can't be the artist, the like exact artist that I originally wanted to be, then like I'm gonna be every artist.
yeah, I want it all.
I want it all. Which is very Scorpio of me, you know, we love revenge.
Nice. So with country, did you listen to a lot of country when you were young? Like, how did you get into country? When your mom and your aunt, like, did they play country when they were hanging out together? Was that kind of...
Not so much my mom, but my aunt. I mean, my aunt just listened to everything because she just loved music, and that's why she wanted to write songs. So she definitely like, she's not like she's more of a casual country listener, but you know, she introduced me to like Reba and Janis Joplin, you know, which is like my first like memories of like country music. But then I started to get into country. It was two things. It was Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift had just came out. She was the hot it girl. I was like, yes. And my first guitar was acoustic, so it's just like pairing with the fact that like Taylor Swift had just came out and I just got my first acoustic guitar. It was just finally something that I just can like pin myself to. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yes, I would say Taylor Swift A, and having an acoustic guitar, and then B. I had a friend in middle school that had just moved from Texas, and at that point I was listening to country on my own, but I was like listening, if it wasn't just Taylor Swift, I was only listening to like the older stuff that like, yeah, that, you know, was initially like what my aunt had exposed me to. So I would listen to really just, I didn't like pop country then. I only listened to on Sundays in Vegas. I don't know if they still do this now, but on Sundays in Vegas they will play the country oldies. So that's what I listened to, the country oldies every Sunday, and like that's what I did. I was like the mix station like 6 days of the week, but Sunday is country oldies. But she introduced me. Because she would play the pop country stuff all the time. It was around that time where I was just like, okay, I want to like do pop country. Like I can do this. Like I feel like I can, you know. So I was just so like, you know, Sugarland and Jason Aldean, and I mean, I love Brad Paisley. I mean, we're not gonna get into accidental racist and maybe other things about Brad Paisley, but at the time, Brad Paisley was my everything. I actually did a country music competition, the first one that I did, where I realized that like, oh, I'm an anomaly. I had did a Brad Paisley cover, and they were like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why is this weird black kid? But I had dreads by then. With like dreads, who's not wearing a cowboy hat, because I refused to wear the hat. I was just like, I don't look like myself. Like, why can't I just do country music looking like me? Like, I was just so oblivious to like all the politics that would come with it, because I was just like, I like country music.
Oh man, well, like that's just something about your character. You just want to do your thing, and you're like, I can do it because I want to, and yeah, that's great. So going back to just kind of thinking about this time that we're in, have you been able to do any writing now, or just been focusing on like producing music? I know sometimes I've talked to a lot of artists who've had a hard time like creating during this time.
I've been doing like small other creative things, but like as far as just like writing for myself, I purposely kind of took a break, because I mean, I'm like, I think I can afford to take a break from writing. Yeah. I'm releasing my 7th record. And so that was great. Like that was just on purpose. I didn't care. But now I'm kind of like been re-inspired and slowly writing again. So yeah, more so recently. Like literally, when I say recently, I mean like in the last few weeks. So
Nice. Nice. What re-inspired you?
I think it was just constant. I think it was less than like I was just like in an initial inspiration. I think I had been inspired probably since I released Cataclysm realistically. Oh, inspiration for me is just kind of just like I'm like a sponge and I just like absorb until I have to like wring myself out. So I think it was just I've gotten to a point where I've absorbed so much I just have to wring myself out now. So that's the best way to describe it. It's never just like one thing for me and I have like an aha moment. It's just like I just stay open and then I'm just like, okay, I have so much in this brain, I gotta get it out now.
Yeah, it's like a release.
Yeah, exactly.
So you said back in the day you had people kind of like bullying you about like your voice. How did that ever, those instances ever like pop into your music and like make your way into like things you've written?
Well, yeah, I mean it's trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I think it played a role in like kind of like I guess like one big thing about my career is that like I kind of like infamously like walked away from the spotlight, but also like it really like affected like my mental health because I think when I first got into music, getting signed right out of high school, like that was really quick for me. That was kind of like a whiplash because I went from like literally being told I can't sing every day in high school to like being signed to the same label as Adele a year later. So that's a lot mentally, like you just like you get I mean that's a bunch of like imposter syndrome to work through. That's like a bunch of just like the actual like logistic stuff to have to work through. Like, oh, I have to like uproot my entire life now. Like, and I just didn't have time to like deal. So I had to step away. And I don't regret it, like now I'm finally like confident like in my voice and like my skills as a musician. But like when I was at my highest, during my debut, I wasn't. But I had to fake it because I had to do this because again, I'm signed to the same label as Adele. So, all this stuff is just like going through your head. But yeah, had I been validated up until I got signed to like a semi-major label, yeah, I probably would have felt better. But the fact that like no one validated my talent literally up until the second that I got signed. And then I get signed and then it's just like, okay, what's the truth? Am I good or am I not? Can I sing or can I not? Like what is the truth? Because I knew I wanted to sing, don't get me wrong. Like I knew that at the very least, but I'm like, is this something that people want to hear? And that's another reason why, that era took me by surprise too as well, because the whole time I was making the record, I was like, no one's gonna like this, and that's okay. Like I literally was just like, okay, I'm gonna go with it because like no one's gonna like it, but that's okay because it'll be my first record and then I'll be able to just like grow from there. So and I knew like what I was creating, I would have approached it very differently, So yeah, it definitely does affect you.
Yeah, and you were so young too, so your brain is still developing, and it's hard to like go through that shock like that at that age.
Yeah, for sure. Like 19. Like it's really crazy. And again, just like I said, like when you go through so much shock during that time, it's like you grow up really fast, right? And it's just like you're kind of like forced to kind of like have kind of like this older mindset. So it's just like almost kind of like felt, especially since everyone else around me was also older than me. I was the youngest everywhere I went, in my tour party and my like musicians and the management label, like no one was my age. So also everyone kind of like babied me as well, even though I was still like an adult, but like, so, that forced me to like also like mature my mind to keep up with everyone else quicker than others. So that's why like now at 25, I feel like 45, like that's when like, but it's because when you put it into perspective, it's like, yes, I've been doing this for like 7 years, which is like anyone else who says that, they're not 25 years old, they're, and it's like, so it's just, and I feel older as well, so that also affects you as well. Like I constantly am like gripping with like, what does it mean to be 25? Like, what does it like? Am I throwing away my youth? Like, have I already just like given up on it, or could I be working harder to live out my youth? But it's just like, I don't know. Yeah. It's a weird time to. It's a lot to do in a very like sensitive time for like anyone.
Yeah, and going back to what you were saying, you hung out with like all of your mom and your aunt's friends when you were a kid. Like you've been around adults like your whole life, like people older than you your whole life. So that's what you're like used to. And obviously that's like affected like how you've dealt with things, and like do you feel like that will forever be in your brain, or will you ever try to be like, hey, let me just enjoy my age?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I'm not working and touring, like when I take like kind of like those year hiatuses, that's when I like feel youthful. Like I felt youthful most of like last year, when I was just kind of just like, yeah, I was still working because I like just launched my label and like everything. But as much as I worked, that was like, that felt like a part-time job to me, and I had, a lot of free time to do. Like I did a cross-country trip with like, hopped in a Prius and did a cross-country trip with like my engineers.
Right.
And while it was wild and probably something that I would never do again, it was a very like young and dumb decision that like, I would never do realistically, like, but I was just like, let's throw caution to the wind. We're young,
You still got that carefree in you a bit.
Yeah, but also it's like, but it's always a conscious decision, you know what I mean? Like that's the thing. Like it's
usually carefree today.
yeah. Even when I do like have those moments, it's just like I'm either forced or it was a conscious decision, and like I don't know. I'm trying to like get past that, but then also like you can't, because it's just like I have been like the CEO of a business since I was 19. Like there is just like a lot writing, and like even more now since I have the label and everything. So but I still try to give myself time, and that's kind of also been like the great thing. I shouldn't say the great thing, the silver lining to COVID. Is that I wouldn't be able to get any of all of this, because I did a lot this year. I wouldn't be able to get any of it done if I didn't have all that extra time to like be able to just like set aside and like unwind. If I had like this workload with like the normal like schedule and the social life and schedule that I did before, nothing would have got done. I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like COVID has been like a reset button for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Let's just reset, pause, and like do the things that you've been meaning to do that you're not having time for, and or maybe other things that you didn't know you wanted to do.
Especially for musicians who like normally spend like 2 months at home and like the rest on the road.
Yeah, it must be nice to be in one place for a while.
Yeah,
well, I think that's all I have for you today. Thank you for joining me. I loved our conversation and learning about little Shamir and his dark old songs when And yeah, the album is out October 2nd. So hope you all go listen to that. I'm very excited for it. I can't wait.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye, guys.